I think we all take advantage of the life that we live here. Everything that we have, we used to not have, or had in the lesser degree. Things such as basic drinking water, power.
Want a break from the ads?
But all of these come at a price of our environment. And not just global warming. That's way too big. That's way too broad. I want to talk a little bit more about the average person, the average animal.
They're like animals.
The average environment. Because it's easy to say that pollution just affects temperature and in turn the rest of our world. But when you look at the finer details, you realize how terrible the pollution really is. Instead of just temperature, now it's a much more specific threat, which is water. There is, of course, the reason why I actually labeled off power and water as my first two main points. And that's how we get the power and what happens to our water as a result. So, that is mainly cool. Huge industries such as China and America rely on coal for a majority of their power sources, to the point where China recently was cut off to their coal supply, which was Australia, because they refused to trade, and they are now suffering frequent power outages. In America, roughly 38% of all power produced is by coal, which you think is, well, that's not a majority of it, but it is the most. Everything else is below, like 20%, which is nuclear power, 10%, which is around the amount for renewable power. So it all stacks up and you say, wow, 38% is pretty high. Now, as most people know, coal is found underground, and if you say, well, it's found underground, then it can't be too harmful for the environment. It's not harmful to the environment because it's underground. You take that stuff back up, and then it gets washed in rain, say. You have coal particles, which are harmful to the environment, in the environment now. Of course, this contaminates water, which is kind of important. I'm not sure about you, but I think most animals, most plants, most crops, and most humans survive off of water. So if none of that's drinkable, I mean, it is estimated that China's underground springs, about 80% of them are pretty bad. It's not good. Of course, there are some groups, actually a lot of groups, trying to fight back against this. Not specifically water pollution, but more so coal emissions, which in turn cause water pollution. Only problem is they all suck, right? Literally. Like, you've got the UN over here that said, oh, well, we should be net neutral or whatever by 2030. Well, they gave every country a deadline to stop actually expanding their industries, so everyone's just ramping it up and causing even more, because they gotta squeeze in those extra factories before 2030, before they have to start dismantling. So everyone's just rushing, making more pollution. It might be a hot take, but that's another reason why the UN is completely useless at any job that they try to do. Other than that, of course, you have other groups like Greta Thunberg.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here.
So what is anybody doing to stop this pollution of the water? Nothing, really. On a country level, for the most part, we are seeing corporations ignore laws against illegal dumping and managing to get away with it with a slap on the wrist, pretty much, in the form of a fine. Countrywide, in terms of the UN, same thing. Most of the Paris Agreement and whatnot is being ignored. China, for the most part, is ramping up production. Nobody really listens at all. The only thing that we have succeeded in is managing to pick up the waste more efficiently, but it's still very, very bad. There's still trace amounts, not even trace amounts, majority amounts, and that's just oil spills and whatnot. Inland, almost completely uncontested. Nobody really cares, nobody really thinks about it, or nobody can really do anything because they don't have the power.